I saw online the other day that they're remaking an old show I used to watch growing up called Are You Afraid of the Dark? Something about that title struck me, and I began thinking about this idea of darkness in this Hebrew creation story. The word used for darkness in this poem is choshech. Here we see this divine and powerful force bringing order and light to a wasteland that's permeated with chaos and darkness. He then steps back and evaluates this light as good. But what's interesting is that this same powerful being does something strange. Rather than destroying or imprisoning the darkness, which is commonly found in other ancient myths, this god allows it to exist, actually makes room for it, and even gives it a name, which, as we've explored in our video on naming, in that culture meant giving it function and meaning and purpose. There's something so counterintuitive about this seemingly inconsequential detail from this narrative. And I think it's pretty natural that we would all want a powerful and divine figure to simply rid the world of all the darkness. After all, who doesn't want the dark and the painful pages in our stories to be erased, to arrange our world so that everything is positive and moving up and to the right? But it seems the world doesn't work that way. And as a culture, we've become quite good at learning to skip over the anxiety, the suffering, and the discomfort of these dark and painful moments, and then just act like they aren't there. Our entertainment and streaming industries give us endless opportunities to live distracted, and even our houses and cars are built to provide us with the maximum level of comfort. Recently, my friend Tim invited me to join him for his morning ritual of sitting in an ice bath. As excited as I was leading up to it, the minute I dove into the freezing water, I quickly regretted my decision. I honestly have never felt anything so shocking in my life. I think every muscle in my body cramped up, and I immediately shot up and Looney Tunes ran my way to the edge of the pool, and of course Tim just sat there laughing at me. After a few minutes, I did manage to get back in the water, and then he graciously guided me through the rest of our practice. As difficult as it was, one of the reasons I love practices like the ice bath is that they reveal so much about where I am in such a short period of time. For me, these intense experiences regularly expose and remind me just how quickly I tend to avoid and resist any kind of suffering or discomfort. I've noticed there's a growing number of people using meditation and spiritual practices as a way to eliminate anxiety, doubt, and fear. And while I'm a serious advocate of these, I think if we're not careful, we can easily use these profound practices as a mask or band-aid, which allow us to bypass our problems rather than investigating why they're there to begin with. My friend Tim taught me something very interesting in that icy water. He said rather than resisting the pain, I could actually become curious about it instead. It almost instantly transformed my experience. I was able to push into the pain, not with resistance, but with curiosity, and even with a hint of wonder. Wow, my little toe on my right foot is really cramping right now. How interesting. I wonder what that's about. What if, like in this ancient poem, we need to make room for the dark places in our lives, the confusion, the despair, the trauma, that thing that's keeping you awake at night? What if we got curious about them and chose to learn from them as if they were here to teach us something important? What if our sufferings are here in a way to help us find our way home, back to our truest self? And please hear me, this isn't to say that darkness is good or equal with light or anything like that. And I'm not suggesting that obsessing over suffering is any more wise or useful than ignoring it. And plenty of people have taken these things way too far in the past. And it's worth noting that unlike the light, God doesn't say the darkness is good. Still, darkness is allowed to exist. But I wonder if we were to begin learning to be present with the pain within ourselves, allowing it, giving it room from a posture of curiosity and kindness, if we could also begin to be tender for the suffering in others. The authors of this poem are bold enough to make the claim that God, being itself, doesn't make an adversary out of the darkness. Perhaps then, we too are being invited into this ancient story where we can begin holding space for the dark.